while back, I was asked to do a video on KJP. She was just a small YouTuber, must have had maybe 20,000 to 30,000 subscribers at the time. Her channel was growing fast, blowing up really, and I was asked to expose her. I turned down the request several times. Back then, the digging and doxing that we know about now, it wasn't a known thing. It was mostly just accusations. She played them off very easy, as accidents or mistakes. Little did I know that I eventually would agree to do it and go down one of the craziest rabbit holes I've ever been a part of. For those of you that have joined the story in the last year, you don't know what happened last December. Out on social media and YouTube, people have started bringing up the events from December of 2019 and asking hard questions about who is responsible for things and how the story changed, knowing what we know now, that KJP has been outed as a YouTuber that handles private information in a very, very dangerous way. So let me do my best to explain that drama and answer some of the questions that are still open now for debate. This is the Without a Crystal Ball drama explained. KJP used to be a blogger by trade here on the internet. She got her start on YouTube through a channel that died long ago.
Channel died, Shannon! Have some goddamn respect! Look, I don't have a...
She did a weekly show with the host called The Smoking Nun, where they talked about certain snake oil salesmen, like the Jilly Juice story. It's a pretty funny story. I might make a video on it sometime. You could categorize their show as discussing and debunking. Debunking is just fact-checking claims on the internet and discussing whatever topic in depth with a mind to correct any misunderstandings or straight-out lies that people tell around topics. During her tenure with The Smoking Nun, she started uploading videos on a channel of her own that would eventually become the Without a Crystal Ball channel. I happen to know the creator of the channel that we're talking about. That's essentially how KJP got a hold of me when she did, but we'll talk about that later. After the channel in question died, and it died a horrible, miserable, tragic death, KJP blogged a bit more, but started gravitating over to YouTube full-time. The start of her channel is pretty mundane. That is, until she touched on Amber Portwood and the teen mom drama. That's when I got my first look at her channel. If anyone scrolls back at her old videos, you can see a timeline of her moving from debunking and discussing religious topics to giving little tidbits on tea or drama content. So as time went on, KJP was seeing her channel form, with the tea and drama bringing in viewers. And because of that, her channel followed and gave them exactly what they wanted. In June of 2019, the community around the original channel had a nuclear bomb go off. Katie was close friends with the creator of the channel, and they had several other YouTubers that they hung out with, kind of like a social club. Shannon Q was a member of that original bunch of people, and she's got a great YouTube channel, check it out. The nuclear bomb in that community split it right down the middle, and Katie was clearly on one side. Co-host of that channel was directly accused of harassing several bigger creators after they appeared as guests. And one of the people that they were accused of harassing was none other than KJP. So this topic pulled in people from her channel, which was mostly a teen mom drama community at the time, and mixed it with the debunkers that followed the other shows. After KJP accused the co-host, her channel literally blew up even more. She released some audio of Amber Portwood, and that ended up being reported on by the mainstream tabloid drama media. So she was mentioned for it. Also, Amber Portwood herself promised that she would get KJP for what she did. I'm bringing all of this up because it helps anyone new to the topic understand how 5 or 6 or even more pretty big communities all were brought together around the same nuclear bomb that went off, causing each community to morph and mix together as the nuclear fallout fell. Shouldn't have to tell you this now, but in case you're a casual YouTube viewer, let's compare the tea community to the debunking community really fast. The tea community exists on a lot of rumors. They also log on to hear people break down opinions on others' social lives and topics that generally are completely avoided by the debunking community. The debunking community obviously talks a lot of science and mixes in comedy and commentary. They rely on a lot of facts and most of the time stay away from rumors and unconfirmed or even social topics. So these communities mix together like oil and water. But for this issue that they were thrust together all at once, and it was pretty crazy to witness this. So we are almost set up to talk about the second nuclear issue that happened back then. Before we do, let me make sure you're on track. KJP was a small YouTuber like everybody else. In fact, I had more subs than she did for a long period of time then, even up to the time that I'm talking about now. Because of this, not a lot of clips had surfaced, and those that were criticizing her were mostly from the tea community and cared a lot about how mean or rude Katie was being to others, how abrasive she was. That's okay, by the way. That was the majority of the content out there for anyone to see when they looked at her actions. And as things went forward into November and December, the criticism against Katie started to all mix together too. The person that she accused turned his debunking channel into a full-time KJP call-out channel, and the exposers of KJP mixed in with his debunking community leading up to November. In November, someone came knocking on my digital doorstep. It was the co-host from that other channel, the one that was kicked off and accused by Katie. We're only going to mention him one time in this video as anything more than another YouTuber, but we'll call him code word Silverfish. So back then I was doing a lot more debunking as opposed to commentary, and when I looked at her channel, I didn't care about her content. Reading the titles, I guess I could have done a video about her clickbaiting or having sensational topics, though I was asked to cover her to expose what she was doing, and I just didn't see it at the beginning. After I turned down the request to do the expose, a few months went by. That same fishy individual asked me to cover it again, but this time he had some ammunition. Thinking back on it, this is really strange. The ammunition that he had was the perfect complaint to get me involved in the story. It was something I'd been covering anytime it happened. But before we get to the breakdown, let's list some of the worst dramas that she's been involved in. So that way when I give you the full story, you'll know why this whole thing is so bad. Let's start with the Stauffer drama. What did Katie do? She doxed them. They are big YouTubers that adopted a baby and then gave it away after they rose to 1 million subscribers and profited off of the child. I'm sure you've heard about this. The most general thing I can say is I was very shocked to learn that she had dug very, very deep at this topic on these people, even to a point that she tweeted the location and exact adoption place. Adoption. I'm not taking this out of the edit. The exact adoption agency where the child was staying. I couldn't find a reason under the sun to even look for that information, let alone to share it on Twitter. I remember seeing people say that she just doxed a little kid that was being shifted between families again, which is just insane and crazy. They were saying this under her tweet. It's important to handle these kind of stories with care, and that definitely didn't happen with her. Also, we could talk about the Sophie situation. I don't like bringing this up. It is evil. A video released of a little girl crying and screaming due to very bad things happening to her. I'm not going to go into any more detail than that, and I'm not giving my opinion on this at all. KJP admitted to me that the mother of the child, the mother was the one who denied anything was happening. As I said, she was in contact with KJP throughout her reporting of the story. Very close contact, which I do now believe created an insane bias in the way that she handled and reported the story. And that is what caused her to have the brat stream that we've all heard about. I just watched a brand new Curtis Price video where he talked about it. And it is the stream where she called this child a brat. Also, KJP reached out to the father first, but he ended up choosing another channel to go on for his first interview. And the community, a large amount of them at least, they hold the opinion that the reason KJP gravitated to the mother and ended up being in contact with her was because she was angry that she didn't get the scoop or be the first person to interview the dad. In the end, I've been told information came out that proved Katie was on the wrong side of the story the entire time. I don't know for sure if that is true, but the day that information came out, she deleted every one of her Sophie videos. I think that says a lot. Next, the Sanders-Kennedy drama. He came out to say that Shane Dawson was under investigation for, let's just say, bad stuff. Katie saw Sanders-Kennedy's video and rushed to report it. Eventually, it turned out Sanders clickbaited us all, and KJP got it wrong due to using him as a source. Next, around this time it came out, she dug way too deep on Jeffree Star, putting out a large amount of personal information on him. The reason I bring this up is because I was shocked at how much that she obviously hates Jeffree. He's really mean to the guy, which would be fine if it wasn't combined with her seeking out private data on him. I don't get how she doesn't see it, but after having herself be exposed for doxings and digging too deep, however you want to say that, people won't really trust that you won't do messed up things with the private data that you gather, especially when you're very nasty to the individual. KJP had DMs with Danielle, but then interviewed an alleged family friend of Cohn's who claimed, I'm not gonna say what she claimed, but she claimed very personal things that only Cohn herself should have talked about, if you know what I mean. If not, it's all good, but to make the story even more clickable, KJP released her DMs with the minor. After getting a lot of pushback, KJP claimed out of the blue that she wasn't talking to Cohn, but to Cohn's mother. And the mother was a stage mom, and therefore, due to that logic, after getting pushback, KJP claimed out of the blue that she wasn't talking to Cohn, but to Cohn's mother. And the mother was a stage mom, and somehow, due to that logic, somehow it was okay to release all the private things that KJP heard from Danielle Cohn. Now again, she wasn't talking to the mother, and if she wants to claim she was, she never showed an iota of evidence that she did so. A lot of people started to see how far she would go claiming and warping things, while at the same time, she released the info under the moniker of being a journalist. A journalist wouldn't claim that the DMs were with the mother without a reason or proof of some kind. It's just insane. Next, though, continuing away from this, KJP constantly complains that people won't reach out to her for her side of the story. But a major reason that people don't is because they know that KJP lies, and if it gets her out of criticism, she'll lie more, while at the same time sharing DMs or little parts of DMs so that she can create a defense narrative. That always is easily debunkable with a little looking, her defense narrative. So now I've tried my best to list some of the major controversies that she's been involved in. Let's get back to the original story. We left off back where I finally gave in and agreed to take a look at KJP and criticize her if I felt she deserved it, which I did. I'm pretty vocal against people using the strike system to false strike other people. KJP had supposedly struck another YouTuber, LB, or Leslie Bass. Supposedly struck her for diagnosing her with Munchausen's by proxy syndrome. This is a pretty famous moment that ended 2019. Essentially, here's how it went. They brought me evidence of KJP telling people to file strikes against anyone that brought up a certain family member of hers. And then also, I was given a video clip of LB in a parking lot, ironically, making the diagnosis. Then I was promised that I would be given the strike itself, the email of the strike, as proof that the false strike had happened. This is where the story starts to shift. As time crept by, a few other dramas played out. I won't mention those dramas in this video, but they had to do with a fundraiser. If you want information on anything in this video, you can go back to November and December of 2019 on the channel. One of the videos, Versus Mode Part 2, deals with this part of the story. I'll try to remember to link it in the description. The main drama, though, that erupted during this whole mess was a fake screenshot kerfluffle. So while I'm asking for the email from YouTube to get proof of the strike, screenshots are handed out by the same YouTuber. Remember, the co-host, the Silverfish. These screenshots are very contentious, but are a very important part of this story. So I'll try my best to give you every detail around this next few weeks' time span. Again, the live streams and videos I did are still on my channel. Here's how these screenshots were released. And yes, this is a very giant red flag. I was live on another network at the time, and the YouTuber came into my live chat making a big fuss about screenshots that he was just given, claiming that they were going to bring down KJP in a way that nothing else had. He wouldn't give them out because they had to do with a tragedy, though he was handing out a transcript of these said screenshots to certain YouTubers and certain members of his community. This transcript is still available online. It was a DM'd conversation between KJP and another party, a claimed viewer. That party was telling her about the passing, and the screenshots showed KJP saying, "Good, at least those people will leave me alone now." Let's take a break in the timeline so that I can make a few points, please. This is an incredibly irresponsible way to handle this kind of issue. Nothing about these screenshots should have been revealed until time had gone by, due to funerals and other services happening at the time. Also, the screenshot should have never been circulated until verified. I said that a million times back then. I still stand by my original take on the issue. It is so easy to create fake screenshots and conversations on the internet that, without confirmation, things like this shouldn't be considered. It's not fair, and it's a tactic people will use when they try to change the thoughts of the community against somebody in the middle of a drama. And as I've told you here, there was a big drama happening when this all came out. And that drama was falling apart for the people claiming it. KJP had denied striking LB on that day, and was accusing LB and friends of faking the strike to get other YouTubers involved. If these screenshots are fake, then it's very likely that this is the reason they faked them, because I was being denied the email that would prove the strike. There was a lot on the line. I also should let you know that when this transcript was shared with me, I had mentioned that we couldn't circulate the screenshots until they were verified, and I was promised the verification would happen with a certainty. I asked how certain he was that they were real, and he said 100%. He said it would be easy to get this viewer that shared them to screen record her clicking on KJP's profile in the conversation and opening the window to show that it wasn't a sock account created to fake the screenshots. Even though I was promised, and even though for a week these screenshots were shared and used to make countless videos and tweets and criticisms, the verification never happened. And that's when things get really, really bad. So that day, another issue happened. I won't mention it, but it involved people attacking one of KJ's family members on Twitter for a day straight. And I decided to go live and call out those people for doing this, but in the nicest, kind of friendliest way possible. Because I had just started to get some information in on the strike right around this time. I believe it was that day that the email was finally released by LB on Twitter. So I went live and gave the easiest, nicest, most polite live criticism and ended the stream like any other video, so that no more drama would be caused. The end of the live stream is the moment that an entire community shifted and a massive drama happened. A lot was revealed. In front of me, I had two major issues that caused the community to split down the middle. Issue number one, did KJP strike LB, or was it a lie being used to attack KJP? And issue number two, the screenshots, were they real screenshots or were they faked to distract from the fake false strike issue? Issue number one resolved itself with hard evidence exactly as this played out, like I said, when LB shared the email that YouTube sent her finally. And it turned out to give us an exact date of the strike, the time of the strike, the video that it was on. But we were all confused, because more and more people started to look at the email and noticed that YouTube had made some spelling and formatting errors. Which, if you're a YouTuber, you know is impossible, because YouTube uses an auto-generated email responder to send these strikes out. So we went to another website to gain more information and see what happened. Social Blade. Social Blade will tell you the statistics of a YouTube channel, and when they get a strike, the views that the video had will be deleted from the views the channel got that day. We rolled back and looked at the day the claimed strike happened, and the data showed that LB didn't even have a strike that day at all, or anywhere near that day. So we went and looked on LB's channel to see if the video is there. This seems like something we should have obviously done earlier, but we were waiting until we got the email to even start looking into this. Someone announces that they have been false struck on a video. They do a fundraiser because of being false struck. LB didn't hold the fundraiser, another YouTuber did, just to mention it. They ask other YouTubers to weigh in because of the strike, with the video still being up. It's insane. It's literally insane. It's almost like they didn't know that strikes make videos go down. That's pretty crazy. I was waiting on the email proof to start looking into things and was busy with my own content, so I just didn't look until this email came out. But lo and behold, the video was still up on LB's channel. This made no sense at all, and there's only one possible outcome: that the video did not get struck. And that does mean that KJP did not file a false strike on LB at that time. Now I'm going to give an important disclaimer, so listen. After all this happened, videos of KJP asking people to strike other channels and YouTubers have released proof that KJP has struck other channels since then. I'm not saying that she doesn't false strike. I'm just saying she did not false strike that video. Everybody will be asking why this would happen, and most people look at KJP in a bad way now, but they really didn't back then. You have to understand, people need evidence before damning somebody. So anyway, let's move on. I did the video versus mode part 2, which goes deep into this issue of the strike. After the screenshots came into question, why? Because the same YouTuber that held the fundraiser for LB was the YouTuber that released the transcript of the screenshots and claimed that they were 100% real and checkable. So the strike not happening meant that someone created a fake screenshot of a false strike to use against KJP. And I don't have to tell you how much that calls into question the other screenshots that were still not validated. Time ticked by, with everybody waiting on verification on the screenshots. And then the excuses started to come up. Excuse after excuse after excuse, and verification never happened. Just more excuses. It kind of reduced the attention on the drama against KJP. Remember, I was criticizing KJP before the fake strike issue happened. A lot of people were too. Most of us, after seeing the links that some people went to frame her for things that she didn't do, we just stopped caring about the situation and moved on. KJP just happened to notice this all breakdown. And somewhere around this time in the story, she reached out to me after seeing that I called out those people that faked these things. Here's what happened when she first reached out. She scolded me for a video I had done months before. She proved that I was lied to about a certain SH accusation that I won't go into detail on right now. So of course, I had to apologize and fix that issue. She told me she did not have that conversation at all and would let me see her DMs any that I wanted to. I made it clear that without verification, I wouldn't trust the screenshots and I would consider them fake. I did that when they came out and maintained it the whole time. But with verification, I would be able to call out KJP and show everybody the proof. Fortunately, as you know, the proof has never come. The verification never happened. Worst of all, we were all lied to about the details of the screenshots and where they came from, because the people that released them changed their story each time they would retell what happened. The main accuser, being called out for lying, he took a break from YouTube and changed the subject altogether, claiming he would never talk about it again. This is the point where KJP and I split ways, kind of. I went back to doing my normal content, she went back to doing hers. I didn't hear from her too often. That is, until I did a video series called The Targeted Harassment Campaign Against Without a Crystal Ball. It was a 2-series mini documentary, I put documentary in quotes sarcastically, where I show the most serious harassment that has been levied against her back in the early days of her channel. I want to take the opportunity in this video to update my opinion on that specific subject. KJP, she was the target of a lot of harassment, for many different reasons. Harassment is never okay. The thing that my video got wrong now is that KJP herself instigates a lot of that harassment against her by challenging, making fun of, and daring people to come at her. This is a bad idea for anyone that is the target of a campaign like the one she was facing, because the people doing the worst things like doxing, threatening, going to her house, etc., they have no boundaries, and you already know they're willing to take things way too far over very small issues. So how far do people like that take things if you're actively challenging and instigating them? Well, very far. They get obsessive. And that's exactly what happened to KJP. I can't believe anyone would ever engage like she has. As we know now, the tactics she used to keep hidden in the dark have come to light with recent lawsuits and events. And we all know that if she's willing to dig deep and find and share private info on YouTubers that give an opinion about the public things that she's engaged in, what do you think she would do to people who constantly target and harass her? Probably a lot. This explains why I have always had this opinion about KJP. I've said it over and over. KJP's channel gets more hate than most channels do with millions of followers. That quote was on point, but I just didn't know why until now. She instigates it in such petty, nasty ways. A real example of this, she recently branded me, one of her harassers, as I handled in a couple videos ago, while trying to frame me for doxing her. Something we all know never, ever happened. In fact, I released proof that it didn't happen in that video a few days back. So you can see the links that she will go when she brands somebody a harasser. So what now? I've done YouTube for a while. I've covered so many topics, mostly because my channel is more of a method or a process of how I do videos more than a topical channel. YouTubers like me that were around before demonetization and the adpocalypse, we all remember the old YouTube and try our best, even though it's just like an imagined thing, to keep a way of doing things. We got some rules we follow. We look at what people publicly put out, what they do in the public space. We never track them to private places or dig things up. It's just going too far and you invade privacy. Though something I've noticed is that the YouTubers who do this all do it because they are trying to hide something, and because they can't respond to the person who commentated on them. If KJP tried responding to my videos honestly, in the end she would have to agree with me, especially when I called her out for sharing private data and digging deep. Because if she didn't agree with me, then she would be openly admitting to seeking private data on the people that she covers. And that's exactly what happened when she emailed Creepshow. She admitted a couple times she has to dig on people that she talks about, gaining some of the most private information I've ever heard of a successful YouTuber gaining on any other person. I think if KJP would have been around YouTube longer, she would have understood how bad it is for her to do what she's done. That reputation can never be forgotten. Why would anybody work with a creator when they know that if they end up criticizing them for something, they will end up taking extreme measures against that person? Katie would just go at them. I also think that she dug deep because it allowed her to dig up material for her videos. All she ever had to do was claim a source, even if it didn't exist, and she could just say anything that she found out there, no matter how private. Why? Because she claims somebody gave it to her. It explains why she contacts people around the story that she covers. It's not like she's on location interviewing people publicly and gaining things that no one knows. She's in her office using methods that can only be described as cyber stalking to scrounge up admissions and rumors from anyone that will let them slip from their lips. If you have to do this to get your YouTube content just to get views, then the views aren't really worth it. Breaching people's privacy for content will lead your channel to be taken, or you might get sued in the end. Who knows? It's just not going to lead to anything good at all. That's why so many people do their best to get their views, whatever they do, by giving an opinion or giving a really good take on something. Maybe by tracking complicated subjects, finding ways to present them in videos so people don't have to watch hundreds of hours of something to get a point. They can just go watch like my 20-minute video summation and they'll be right there, they'll get it. Or maybe your channel is based on your personality and comedy. The point is, if your viewers come in because you dig up private stuff on people and throw it out all the time, you're only gonna make enemies of all the people you cross to get that data. And the viewers that click you aren't going to watch unless you have the next super sensational story to give them. It has to be stressful. It can't be fun. And it's not good content, even if it gets views. The questions that are left unanswered. I try to give you something worthwhile at the end of a video. Sometimes it's a cartoon. Sometimes it's like a rumor or something. Sometimes it's a good summation. This time, I'm gonna reveal who holds the truth to one of the biggest unanswered questions from December of 2019 when this all really started. Those screenshots. There is a debate out there right now about who made the screenshots from back then. Well, I know who knows. It is the person who brought those screenshots to the first people that learned about them. He is the one. And you want to know why. Luckily, he told us what happened. And you'll say, what if he lied? Why would anyone lie while releasing those to the community unless they are the one who made them to give to the community? Either way, whether he lied or whether he's telling the truth, he knows. What did he tell me back then several times? The first night he mentioned the screenshots, he said that, quote, he knew the person who gave them to him and trusted them 100%. Also, he said that person would 100% verify those screenshots. The reason that he promised this would happen is obvious. It's because I objected to using the screenshots until they were verified a lot, and the only way to verify them was to watch the person screen share the conversation from the DMs and open the profile so that we could see if the profile was KJP's main profile as they claimed it was. Or, if the screenshots were fake, it would open up to a sock account, an empty account, or an account that didn't match KJP's, and they would, of course, do that to make it look like KJP. A lot of you have been asking me why I always say that these are fake. Well, here you go. 1, we didn't get verification, but we were promised it. So, we were lied to. They should have been honest when they promised verification. They should have told the details then. They shouldn't have lied. Number 2, the transcript. It contained extra characters in it. Those extra characters were not present in the original screenshots. We even accounted for those characters being added in the transcription of the shots. And still, even though this part is a little technical, I'll simplify it. It is proof that the transcript and the version of the screenshots that we were given did not match up. Were there different versions of the screenshots? Who knows? I don't know. I can't give you more information there. All I know is it doesn't match. It doesn't make sense because it's a lie. Number 3, we were promised that we were sent the original screenshots. Not opened up, not modified in any way, directly sent. This is a trap that I lay for people trying to send me fake screenshots. Because when somebody edits a screenshot in any way, it will change the metadata of the screenshot and it leaves a trail. It lets us have a value that we can fact check if things seem fishy or off about screenshots. And inside the metadata of these, we found that a program was used to modify those screenshots. The name of the program was Picasa 3.0. I could go on for another full-length video on this subject, but so that I don't bore you, I won't. I will say this. Picasa 3.0 is a program that was used very long ago. It was not that popular, and it has been free for a while, and somebody might use it if they are a cheap ass, or if they're too dumb to use Photoshop, too cheap to use Photoshop, or other professional imaging software. So there really aren't that many people that would ever still use Picasa 3.0. Also, most streamers or video creators, if those video creators edit their videos, or if those streamers do their own streams instead of having a producer or something, we must use current generation programs. Very few of us would use Picasa 3.0 nowadays. And this will be boring, but there are other open source, completely free, extremely powerful other options for people to use instead of Picasa 3.0. One example is called GIMP. It is a full Photoshop replacement that is absolutely free. So only a boomer would use Picasa 3.0 nowadays because they used to use it at one time, so they know it, and they don't want to use any other newer program and learn a new program, obviously. And the biggest red flag about the screenshots? Well, it tells us all anyone needs to know if they are looking for who faked those screenshots. The story that we were given about them was that a person gave them to a fishy individual that handed them out. But then later on, the story changed to a convoluted, watered down. It was a story about this main person that they called Person X gave them to a middleman named Person M, who gave them to a fishy person named Person Fish. The fact that the story changed is a major red flag, and I myself will not accept the second version of the story. When those screenshots were brought to me on the very first night that they were discussed at all, I was told they came from one person who a fishy person knew and trusted 100%. So sorry if anyone is mad at me for not going with the second version of the story. I'm not going to. But this is the biggest part. About 8 months after all of this happened, when we all had moved on to talking about other issues, something very, very interesting happened. The fishy individual, he went live. And this time, he was running his own stream instead of having somebody else run the stream for him like he usually did. And at one part of the stream, he clicked the wrong button and ended up showing his desktop. So for a split second, the audience that was watching saw the programs that he had on his desktop. One very observant viewer thought they saw something very suspicious. So they rewinded the video and paused it on a frame where they could see the desktop. Remember, this is the person who brought the screenshots out to the community first. The one who shared the transcript and the one who wouldn't hold them quiet until an appropriate time. The one who changed his story about where they came from and how he got them, the fishy person himself. On his desktop, there was an icon of a program on his computer staring us all in the face. What do you think that program was? None other than Picasa 3.0. Just so I don't get any comments asking me what that means, I'll break it down even further. Back in December of 19, when all of this was coming out, we had all been scratching our heads asking why Picasa 3.0 was in the metadata of the screenshots as the program that had edited the screenshots. I remember saying back then, damn, I wish we knew who out of that group of people had Picasa 3.0 on their computer, because it'll tell us who did all of this. I said that back then. And I'll be damned if it's not on the desktop of the person who went around telling a bunch of YouTubers about the screenshots first. Even without this fact, because they told us that they knew who had claimed conversations with KJP. If anybody cares to know who made these fake screenshots, like who the person was who came up with the idea and actually made them, it would be the person who gave the screenshots to that fishy person. Or, of course, the only other culprit would be the fishy individual. So what can you do now? Luckily, the videos and live streams from back then, they are all watchable. You can hear the excuses they all gave about these issues for yourself. You can go to Twitter and see the excuses that they made when being asked to prove things. And you can see them being asked to put out their verification and see the excuses there too. And you can yourself fact check the things I said here and see yourself that it's all accurately represented. Here's an example. After we realized Picasa 3.0 was on his desktop, they went to Twitter trying to give excuses for why it was there. Also, you can go and watch on YouTube live streams where they get together and talk about how Person X and Person M all did this and that. I know there are people out there that are hurting because these screenshots took a tragedy and trivialized it for an internet beef. They took a person's suffering and ignored all human decency to try and gain a tiny bit of clout off that situation. And I know it still is a painful and tragic mess, but the people out there that are trying to report what happened in a truthful and careful way, they aren't the problem. The smaller problem are the people that are using it for clickbait or views. The most massive problem, though, the person or people responsible for this are those who created it and then shared it. And the last thing I'll say is that even last week, those same people they are trying to convince others out on social media that these screenshots were real. And they do it by ignoring the facts and the proven history of what really happened. So truly, it is time for the person who shared these first to tell the truth about where they came from, who gave them up, and if they still want to say that they are real, which we all know they aren't, they will stop hiding behind excuses and come out and give the true story. If they keep ignoring it and hiding it, that is on them. Of course, the community is going to talk about this from time to time. It's an open lie. It's an open wound. Because even the worst person even doesn't need people faking things and lying about things to attack them. All it does is give the worst people a shield to deflect critique when fake things are thrown their way. There are more than enough real things out there to criticize them with. You don't need the fake shit. The entire community should demand only the truth about what happened, and once we get it, then we all let it go. UNIRock out.